Hey there everyone, this is Lorna Gagnon from RMXP Prestige in Hawaii Kai. Today we're going to talk about the art of negotiation. Negotiation I liken to a football game. The negotiation certainly isn't done after the first play. There's a stream of events that must take place in order for a successful closing. So today we're going to talk about a couple of strategies that you can use in the art of negotiation. Number one, we recommend that you anticipate repairs. What do you mean by anticipate repairs? When you're meeting with the seller and you're preparing the seller's net sheet, talk about home repairs. Actually factor in a cost for anticipated home repairs. That way, when the buyer asks for repairs, the seller would have budgeted a certain amount of money. Now, I do recommend estimating on the high side, so that way they're pleasantly surprised when the price comes in a little lower or they spend less on repairs than they had anticipated. Another tip that we have for you is when you're negotiating the as-is. Now, we all know it's common practice to throw an as-is addendum in, oftentimes in the counter, the listing agent's asking for an as-is, and the hope is that there'll be no further negotiations with regards to repairs. However, sometimes there's unexpected repairs. The buyer wasn't anticipating, nor was the seller anticipating. So I even recommend, if you're using an as-is, to still factor in a cost for repairs. This way the seller's not surprised later on down the road. As a true professional, you help them navigate the intricacies of the real estate transaction. And after all, we know that's what you're great at. Another strategy you can use is when the buyer's agent asks for a list of repairs, and we know sometimes there's quite the list, right down to the last little screw on the wall, you can simply say, "Oh, gosh, that won't work. I'm sorry, you'll have to do better than that." This gives them an opportunity to really flush out what's important to the buyer. Now, before you even present it to the seller, they've already countered their offer with something more reasonable. It's all part of the negotiation, and your job is to do what's absolutely in the best interest for your seller. Now, negotiation is certainly an art, and we all know that the market conditions, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, all factor into that negotiation. Your job as a real estate professional is to understand that market. In some cases, when it's a strong seller's market, you also have a third option. That option would just be to say no. Now, your seller has to be comfortable with saying no, but in some cases, a simple no is all that's needed. The buyer will still move forward. But remember, you must be cautious and inform your seller of all of their options. As you go through this process with the sellers, your sellers will be grateful to you for the level of preparation and anticipation that you brought to the transaction. There's nothing worse in a negotiation than having the seller be blindsided by the demands of the buyer. The last tip I have for you today is to negotiate a value for repairs. We all know that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and sometimes people don't see eye to eye on repairs. What one person finds as acceptable, another person may not find as acceptable. So try to negotiate a value for those repairs, something that will allow the buyer to come in and do the repairs needed, and the buyer then establishes a relationship with the vendor who did the repairs, so if there's anything subsequent or further that's needed, the buyer can take care of that. Now that you've successfully navigated the transaction, it's a great time to ask the seller for referrals to help you build the future of your business. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of RMXP TV, and together we hope to expand, excite, and elevate your real estate business. Now, don't forget, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share our video with anybody that you feel it would be beneficial. Till next week.